What's up, guys? I just wanted to jump in real quick. I started this drawing and I wasn't originally planning on recording it, but I figured it would kind of touch base on the rule of depth, if you will, and I can kind of go through the time lapse and explain to you some of the decisions I made throughout the drawing. So at the very beginning, I started with the head. I just literally a sort of a base where I can place the picture in the composition, and then move right to the hand, and I put it just smack dab up front. And after I laid down that eye, I was immediately sold with the rest of the drawing. I figured I could do some sort of spinning pose move. Maybe he's like backhanding Venom or something. As we continue through, I'm kind of filling out the hand here and putting the head together, adjusting it a bit so I can add the thumb. And now from this point, I'm trying to I need to figure out like where is the rest of his body going to be. So if his hand is coming right at the camera like that, he's probably got his head a little bit further down, which will bring his back upwards more. I'm laying in kind of the back muscles, and at this point I need to figure out where his other arm is going to be because I want to keep that in there. But then going through the arm, it felt like it was a little like broken backwards. And it might be. I didn't really use reference for the pose or anything. I was just kind of exploring the sketch. It still felt a little broken to me, so I kept exploring options of different possible arms that could fit. And throughout all of these options, I was just not feeling it. It just looked broken to me. So I actually went to my original idea where it looked the most broken, but I felt like it could come off as like a really cool mid-spin attack or something like that. So I continued forward and kind of detailed up the arm, added in some of the webs, and put in the lines. But yeah, in the meantime, I'm going to print this out and we're going to finish it up. All right, so we got our drawing printed out. The way I'm going to tackle this is I'm going to go from darker line to the furthest back would be the lighter line. So I'm going to start for the hand. I'm going to give it this thick sort of brush pen. It has like bristles on it, so you can kind of work a little bit more loosely. And you'll see a lot more of this in the manga medium, as it definitely helps portray movement a lot more. If you're kind of filling out a really detailed scene and you need like half of it to be some sort of kicking move or a spinning move or something, whatever would be closest to the camera would be a much more thicker line. So, or at least that's how I see it. But now I'm gonna make his fingers kind of wrapping downwards. So where this kind of area comes is this knuckle right here, which has like a rounded shape. So I want to kind of indicate that with this, with kind of going in there and capping off that part of the finger. I'm gonna right now I'm gonna use the Micron 0.3, which will give me a much smaller, more inside lines, because I don't want these to draw as much attention as this Copic one. So just kind of following the shape of the geometry in the hand, you want to fill in the shadow. So which means the light would probably be coming from this way, which will make the knuckle, because it kind of rounds upwards, it would also be on that sort of plane, which will cause it to have some shadow being casted behind it. Now, I don't know what my whole plan for this YouTube channel is, honestly. I just kind of started it, and I put out that question on Instagram on if, like, what types of videos you guys would want to see. And I'm planning on definitely doing a lot of that, like, going through my art book collection maybe, or going through my previous traditional art sketchbooks. I have many of those that I filled up in the past couple years. I haven't really done a lot of sketchbooks this year, because I've just been kind of staying close to the iPad. It's just it makes everything so much easier. But it's a good thing to do, so I need to definitely get on it, because it sort of adds line miles into your like lexicon of artistry, you know what I mean? So like the more the more things you're drawing, whether it be bad or good or even something really quick, it just adds. Think of it like Final Fantasy, right? Where like you'll be running through the open fields and you'll get attacked by some random villain, just random like level 1 monster, right? And that level 1 monster would be your sort of quick sketch in your sketchbook. So say you're in a coffee shop and you want to sketch someone's gesture discreetly. Don't be weird about it. Then think of that as like your level 1 monster. And then once you sort of overcome that sketch and you have it in your... Oh no. The lines on his fingers aren't round enough. See, it needs to go like around because his finger's going downward, so it would show that this, like, in a more cylindrical manner, like the end of this part of the finger would show an open circle, so you kind of want to follow that curvature. Sorry, I kind of got off the Final Fantasy analogy, but yeah, so think of those little coffee shop gestures as your level 1 monsters. Your big illustrations can be your boss battles, and whatever you are adding into that sort of library of drawings gives you more experience to move on to the next battle, if you will. All right, so we got this hand pretty much done up. I kind of want to add lines here since his finger's a little bit curling a little bit more downwards than the rest. And since his head is kind of face downward, there's a really hard sort of curve happening right here. Forward, we're gonna throw down these web lines real quick. Another thing that took me forever to learn about Spider-Man was actually the way the webbing on him works. So you do have to think of it like, honestly, it seems like a no-brainer, right? Is just put a spider web on his head. But it took me so long to, for some reason, be able to figure that out, that it was just, if I took a spider web and placed it on his face, it would then wrap around. So how a spider web works is it has, you know, that shape, and so it would be going around his head, and then the webbing would be running down into the nose. I'm just gonna freehand it. His leg would be sort of this way, and then kind of his knee would probably be like right in this area. So this could be the top of the knee, and this can be where it bends downwards. And it kind of looks like it would be sort of around there. So yeah, and I mean, this is kind of how, this is a part of the process. See how this looks. Oh, that's a little too pink. Maybe like a... Oh no, someone just started mowing their lawn. What about peach? No. I want something that's just not very saturated. This is actually pretty good. So we'll go with this. And since the lighting is coming this way, I'll make sure I give him a nice big sort of big hot spot. So it's coming like right down this way, you can see. Sometimes I'll try to plan out my shadows by like drawing a line and then filling it in. So I think that's kind of how I'm gonna approach it this time. So we're gonna just do that. I'm just gonna fill that one in. The reason I went with something that's not very saturated was because I don't want to like take away from the actual ink in it, and that's why you'll see in a lot of my work that I pick really sort of sometimes desaturated light colors, because I want to make sure the ink is still very readable. I want to sculpt out the shapes with the lighting. And that's kind of how I approach coloring pieces in general. So like the knuckle, it would write upwards, and then maybe there would be this, and then this would probably be fully colored red, seeing as it's being turning down this way. Same with this knuckle. You can see they're a little not in the same area, but that's all right. Since the lighting is hitting this finger, you want to just give it an indication that it's wrapping around by adding shadow on one side. And then I'll fully color in this one. This one would be casted fully in shadow, so you don't have to really worry about kind of sculpting out light with it. Same with kind of this part of the hand, seeing as it's being turned away from the light. Like you can see here, half of it would be sort of gradually casted in shadow. So I think I'll cut it off here. And then it has the light, and then you have to kind of indicate that the hand is sort of turned by adding that. So we'll move on to the body real quick. This part is going to be blue, and this part's going to be blue, and this part. So I want to do this hand, and if it's kind of being hit by the light right there, that means I want it to turn downwards this way, because it's being hit right like this right now. So with the hand, you could see the shadow is kind of hitting this side. So you want to color it this way. I didn't even plan to be using my hand as a reference, but it just so happens the light is on this side, and like, see, life just works out sometimes. All right, now my next mission is to find a color that's lighter than this. Maybe it would be peach. How'd that look? How's that look, guys? I used a lot of the peach color already, so I'm gonna be trying. I would never do this with a marker that had like a ton of ink, but seeing as this doesn't have a lot of ink, I have to just kind of color it this way, which is going to make this whole situation a nightmare. So I think what I'm going to do is fill in this part. Spider-Man's wearing a pastel-y orange suit today. He left his super saturated red suit at home. So to fix this eye, I have this Copic opaque white. The B45 smoky blue I use in like almost every single one of my marker drawings, just because it's such a reliable blue color that works on like everything, and it's not too saturated, but it still definitely is a blue. It's not too light, but it's not a dark blue, but you could just tell that it's blue. It's very obvious, you know. So I couldn't champion the B45 smoky blue color enough. So now what you want to do is add some definition into the blue like we did with the red. See, look at that. It's like, that's sort of like the thigh muscle, right? And then it moves into the knee, which is then bending down away from the light. So, you know, you'll add your plane of shadow here. All right, and so I'll continue adding in the definition with the red. I kind of like always adding these sort of shadow spikes. I think that's good for now for Mr. Spider-Man. And then we'll add the lines. So as you can see, I had background lines going this way, so we'll just like kind of follow that. It's all about the movement. Like, you want your arm to have the same energy that Spider-Man has while he's doing this cool spinning trick. What I do kind of want to add what I think might look really good is a white outline around the hand. Now this is going to take a long time, but I feel like the payoff is definitely worth it. And I think adding this white outline just adds a sort of separation between the depth of the hand and the rest of the body. I'm gonna use this. So it kind of adds a little bit of a stylistic effect to it, I guess. Sign it and call it a day.